Welcome to the Multifamily Zone, where business meets family. We explore what the entrepreneur life looks like from the family perspective. Now here are your hosts, Julia and Gino Barbaro.
Hey everyone, this is Julia Barbaro, host of the Multifamily Zone podcast. I'm here with the co-founder of Jake and Gino, my husband and co-host Gino Barbaro.
Hi, Julia.
Hi, Gino.
How you doing?
Good.
This is going to be such a fun podcast because I've had problems over the years for listening and communicating. And I'll start the podcast off with a story. My brother is outside on my porch right now, and you probably might even hear him. Is my brother exhibiting good listening skills? I told him, Mark, I can hear you. I'm going to be recording a podcast. Oh, you can hear me? Okay, I won't make any noise. Well, you're going to be hearing outbursts every now and again of my brother making loud noises. So when people talk, you need to listen, exhibit listening skills. And this might seem intuitive, like, oh, well, I listen, but I want to break down the three different types of listening. I want to pull a couple of quotes from Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference, which really talks about negotiation. And that's why I'm going to lead into the business aspect of it with negotiation and listening. My wife will dive into the family. We always have these big discussions and we love doing business, family, and joking around. But I think it's really important. And I'm going to show you how, if you become a better listener, you'll be able to communicate better. It's funny. You think from listening, how are you going to be able to talk or speak better? But it really works hand in hand.
Well, I think when you're a good listener, I feel like you say only what's needed to be said. Do you know what I mean?
And it's funny, as you get smarter, you speak less and you listen more because you want input from everybody else who's around you. Leaders really speak last and they listen better and they listen more and they ask for advice.
And going with listening, I just want to say it's also our reaction, right? Would you say, Gino?
A reaction?
Your reaction. When you're told something that you don't want to hear, how do you react? Okay.
Told you this is gonna be a lot of fun. I'm gonna be jabbing her.
It's so good because yeah.
So I'm gonna break down the three types of listening, right? The first one is subjective. Subjective is, and you know, guys are all out there. You're probably listening on your phone right now, scrolling on your Instagram and your Facebook. You're listening, but you're not really listening. It's subjective. It's out there. And the best one is that I can give you the example is picture myself sitting on the couch. I'm watching football and my wife comes and starts talking to me. I can't do two things at once. I'm either listening to her or I'm watching the football game. I'm not doing both. So that's subjective listening. I'm really listening, but I'm not listening. And that's really disrespectful. That's really annoying. And that's not really paying attention. And that's like the lowest level of listening.
Well, there's another side to that. And that's me in this story, right? Because is it right for me to come over to you when you're watching football and have a conversation with you?
I mean, it could be. You could say, hey, Gino, this is really important. Can you shut the TV off? And I should mute the TV and look at my wife and really pay attention to her and give her all the attention.
What I mean is, knowing that you love football, you're watching a game. Is it something that could wait? And so that's what I'm trying to say. It kind of goes in a full circle where that all the communication, is it something so important that has to come right now? Or can I be patient and wait? He's watching the football game. I can see that. Let him enjoy it. I'll have this conversation in a couple hours.
The problem with that is most people can't keep that thought in their minds for very long. They're going to forget about it. And I'm going to get to Christopher Voss's first quote that I love, but write it down. I think
that's an excuse. Yeah.
Well, write it down.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, fleeting. So being subjective and have subjective listening is really the lowest form of listening. The second form is active listening. When I actually mute that controller and I look at Julia and I'm actively listening, but I'm still thinking about the game. But I'm actively listening to her. I'm paying attention to her, maybe not fully, but I'm still paying attention to her and I'm giving her my attention.
Well, I think this is the most common that I've seen anyway, because a lot of times too, we've all experienced talking to someone when you could tell that they're thinking of something else, right? You can tell that they're thinking of something to say once you stop talking. And it's actually kind of irritating because I'm trying to get a point across and the person is just trying to get out their point. And for me, I actually, just from life coaching, it's definitely opened my eyes a little bit more I was always a good listener, but now I'm definitely a better one because I actually don't think about it. I just like to hear the person talk. I like to even see their mannerisms. That's why I love coaching online, because I could see people talking. I could see, their facial expressions. You can see them when they look a little bit upset or excited about something. So what if we just start looking at that? When someone's talking to us, pay attention to their whole body language, their facial expressions, their eyes, what they're looking at. You can see when someone's a little upset, even if they're not saying it.
The third one is intuitive. Intuitive is really the highest level and the highest form of listening. You're really reading between the lines. You're really listening, but you're really listening to what the person is saying. You're listening to, like Julie said, their body language, their inflection of their voice, what they're really trying to say. And that's the highest form. You're really locked in. You're really paying attention. And intuitive listening, I think you need to do something to get that intuitive listening. You really need to ask empowering questions. You really need to ask those thought-provoking, deep, interesting, open-ended questions, the empowering questions, to exhibit that intuitive listening.
Yeah. So even when someone's telling a story and you see them, they're telling a story about something and you could see the excitement in their eyes. Hold on a second. You're telling me the story. Tell me a little bit more about that. I could see you're excited about this, and I could see it means a lot to you. So tell me more about it. And that's how you get a lot of people to talk more and to just kind of, when you're coaching and you get a lot out of the person, they get new ideas from just asking that question about, tell me more about that. So even when we talk to our kids or to our husband about ideas that they have, ask that question. Tell me more about it. You look like you're excited about this. I want to know more about it. And that's where they get their ideas from.
There's a lot of empowering questions that I like to go over. Let me go over a couple that I think that you can use in your everyday life. What do you think about that? When you ask somebody, what do you think about that? And you're a leader of a team and you're going through problems and you have an answer, I'll say, hey, Julia, what do you think about that? Us, working 9 to 5 and taking Fridays off and just working 9 to 6. What do you think about that? And when you ask that question, it's open-ended. You're going to get advice from that person. And if it's a solution, they've just created a solution and they own that solution. That's an awesome, open-ended, empowering question. Another question I love to ask is, what is another way to look at that? There's other ways to look at a problem or a solution or whatever you're talking about. There's other ways. And if you ask that question, all of a sudden you're painting a picture in a person's mind. There may be another way to look at that problem. Another one is, what scares you about that? That's what I like. What are you afraid of? What are you fearful if you do this? Well, I might be doing this or that. Whatever comes out of that, you can discuss that. The last one that I have written down here is, what did you learn from that? That is awesome. So let me repeat those four. What do you think about that? What is another way to look at that? What scares you about that? And what did you learn from that?
To be a good listener too, it takes, there's a lot more to it. And I see it with my kids. If they do something wrong, and and they have to come to you and tell you. And some of them they're all a little different, but I just find it interesting that some of them know that I'm not going to be that mad, and the other ones think I am. So am I approachable to these people? Am I approachable to my family? Can they come to me and tell me something without me overreacting, right? Without me judging them or assuming the worst or criticizing them? Because that's so important. To listen to someone is so beneficial for everyone. But am I approachable to them? It is so helpful in all relationships, whether it's a parent or a child or a sibling or a spouse, because I want my husband to come to me and be like, listen, I messed up. Let's talk about it without me overreacting. And, because our reaction plays a huge role in our relationship. Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
I would agree. And the empowering questions are also important because they're open-ended. Mm-hmm. When you use a closed-ended question like why, or a yes or no question, that doesn't really expand upon what the idea mm-hmm. is. So you're not going to be able to exhibit any listening skills. And also why did you do that? That seems judgmental to people sometimes. So just be careful when you use that why question.
Yeah, that's how the why one was, I think, the hardest thing for me to stop saying. Because when my kids would do something, especially, I'd be like, oh my gosh, what were you thinking? Why did you do that? Yeah. And it's initially they feel like they can't talk anymore, right? But this is something, because we've done a little bit of communication on the podcast before, and it's interesting that we make a decision to be better listeners and make a decision to be more approachable, to react a little bit better, but we do forget, and time goes on and we have to decide again, right?
Yes.
Because we do forget. Sometimes we're so good at it, and then it just it just fades away, and we have to put in the effort. So, maybe from the time we did that last podcast to now, a lot of us out there, which is me included, we kind of slipped away a little bit.
You know why? That's a close-ended question. Do you know why?
No.
It's because it's soul-sucking sometimes.
It's exhausting. Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes it's just you just
Yeah.
don't want to hear the person
Yeah.
complain,
Yeah.
or you've got your own stuff going
Right.
on, and that's why it's difficult to be a good listener a lot of the times. But if you're in an occupation like an attorney, like a negotiator in real estate, like a team leader, you have to put that aside and say, I need my listening skills to really be sharp and to be strong.
And even in a relationship, it does. It's great to go out on dates once a week if we set it on a Friday, but we forget. The week goes by, we company or something happens, and a month goes by and we haven't been out. This is a cue for my husband to realize we haven't gone out on a date in a while.
Dude, every weekend we're going somewhere different, a different state or something. It's like, really? I'm listening right now.
Just the two of us.
I'm listening, but it's not really filtering through because we have two different views of this right now. The Amex card would say otherwise to that one. So, okay, see how I've gotten her back on my side. I want you all to listen to Chris Voss's quote on this, because I love this. This dovetails exactly into what we've been talking about. Most people approach a negotiation so preoccupied by the arguments that they support their position that they are unable to listen attentively. I'm so gung-ho about my topic. I'm so gung-ho about the price that I want, on why the cap rate's got to be low and why the property stinks, that I'm not listening to the other side. Maybe they have a reason for what's going on. And that's with everything in life. When we're trying to make a discussion or trying to persuade somebody, we're so bought into our side. Maybe it's our ego. Maybe it's because we want to be right, whatever that may be. But that really affects the negotiation and affects the ability for us to listen attentively, because we're out there proving a point and we're out there that we know it. So that would be subjective listening. If you have that mindset, the next time you go into a negotiation, really think about that. Really think about how you're preoccupied. Write down your points, share your points, but let the other side discuss with their points, because ultimately that negotiation, you're trying to see what problem they have and what value you can bring to the table and how you can close this deal. What's it going to take to get this deal closed? That's a great empowering question. So coming from that perspective, as opposed to your property's overpriced, you pay too much, your expenses are crazy, that's not going to get the job done. That's berating the person, and has no shot of actually getting the other side to open up and tell you what's going on in their world.
Yeah, that sounds like even just in a marriage or family, because there always is another side, and sometimes we don't know the other side because we've never asked it, and we want to hear about it. And like Gino was saying, if we're so closed-minded, we think our way is the only way, we're not going to hear it. So instead of insisting on, I know that I'm right on this one, hey, tell me about that a little bit more. I want to hear about it. Here's what I'm thinking, but I want to hear what you have to say. And again, you're at that point, you're more approachable. People are going to come to you more and say, I appreciate that you don't judge me when I say something. That's a good feeling.
Chris Voss in the book also talks about mirroring, how you can mirror somebody, repeat back what your counterpart has said. Julia, you said we haven't gone out to dinner in a couple of weeks. I hear you. I'll put that on the calendar. So
it's
mirror,
and
I'm actually validating her feelings, although I think she's full of it. But
it's all right. I'm still gonna get a date.
This podcast is costing me money instead of making me money, everybody. But anyway, that being said, mirroring is great, and you can mirror body language. But I think if you mirror back and you talk back what that person has said to you, it just validates them, and it makes that's part of the listening is powerful. That falls right into the intuitive listening. You're mirroring back and you're saying what they've said to you. So it's almost like, wow, this person is actually listening to me.
I actually use this on my 5-year-old because You know, when little kids will say the same thing over again, they want something constantly and they say it over and over again to the point where you just have to yell, please stop talking. You know,
It's never happened
what I
ever.
did was I actually, it was across the room. So I didn't yell, but I yelled out and I repeated what she said. I said, do you want, and I, whatever it was. And she said, yeah. And I said, okay. And then she stopped talking. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the kids just, they don't feel heard because they're constantly talking. And we just yes them sometimes to the point, because it, you know, we have a lot of kids and there's a lot of questions going on in my house all the time. The kids would tell you, but they just want to be heard. I feel like people just want to be heard. So you repeating what they said, I mean, that it shows that you value them, that you appreciate them, and that they mean something. And I think that's so helpful. So I wonder if we could all do that this week coming up, is just when someone says something to you, especially someone close, repeat what they said, you know. And it also gives us clarity on what the person is asking,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the times if I'm asking Gino something, he's not quite sure what I'm asking. Whether you're listening or not, I feel like sometimes, you know, I just should just be more straightforward. I guess a lot of us are like that. And you repeating it will just clarify what I'm asking. And I think that really will help with our communication in general. Not our communication, just people's communication.
Let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsors.
Gino and I are super excited to tell you about the audiobook version of The Honeybee, which was recently released.
The Honeybee tells the story of Noah, a disappointed, disaffected salesman who feels like his life is going nowhere until the day he has a chance encounter with a man named Tom Barnum, the beekeeper. In his charming, down-home way, Tom, the bee man, teaches Noah and his wife Emma how to grow their personal wealth using the lessons he learned from his beekeeping passion.
In the audio version, Gino and I sat down for an exclusive interview after each chapter where we elaborate on the stings we felt throughout the business, the importance of scaling up, and how we've been able to create multiple streams of revenue.
For more information and to get your copy of the audiobook, visit jakeandgino.com/honeybee.
And we're back. What I want to jump into right now, I've been reading The Go-Giver, the influencer one. It's a great book. It's a purple book written by Bob Berg. And he's got down in the book the 5 secrets of influence. They tie into this podcast pretty well with listening and communications. I think the first one that he has written down is master your emotions. I love that. If you're going to be able to listen to somebody and communicate effectively and negotiate, you have to master your emotions. Most people on TV, everywhere, nobody can master their emotions anymore.
Mhm.
Low emotional intelligence has low energy. It's really low intelligence. Master your emotions and learn, like Bob says, just to breathe and just be in the moment and just be there attentive and actually be conscious and aware of what you're thinking. Master your emotions, cut it down, and just relax.
You know, we all have different roles. You know, I'm being a woman, a mother, a wife. I'm not in competition with you, my husband. You know, I'm not in competition with someone else if I'm working with them. I'm part of the team. We're all part of just a huge team in this world. And so when we're feeling like we're in a competition with the other person, I feel like we really don't allow them to be themselves. And we don't listen to them like we should, because we're always judging and saying, okay, how can I do this better than you, you know? And so if we just realize that we all have something to offer different than each other, we can hear each other differently, and we can really pay attention to what the other person is saying and wanting and asking, and kind of see them for who they are.
Number 2, step into the other person's shoes, which means listen. Step into their shoes. This is just a perfect segue into what Julia said. Listen to what they're saying. And we can go back to Chris Voss's quote. Most people approach a negotiation so preoccupied by the arguments that they support, that support their position. They're not listening to the other side. They're not really listening to what they're saying. They're just supposing and projecting what their feelings are onto that person. So the first one is to breathe. The second one is to listen.
Yeah, you know, we never know. There's always more to the other person that we could ever know. There's always more going on in their life that we you know, we always think, we assume that we know the person, they would tell us everything, but maybe they don't. we don't know what goes on in their thoughts. And so if we don't know that, how can we approach them differently? How can we approach them and say, you seem a little down today. You seem like something's bothering you. If you need someone to talk to, I'm here. Just to open that up and let them know that that you're there for them, because that's also something that a lot of people aren't like that. They don't have anybody to talk to. So maybe that's you out there who can be the listener.
Number 3 is set the frame. Now, what does that mean when you set the frame? That means smile, establish the tone of the conversation. To be interesting, you need to be interested. So set the frame and smile in body language and be open. And when you start listening to somebody and you make the eye contact and you're paying attention to them and you're locked in, that means a lot. People can tell within a split second of your body language, whether you're pulled back, arms crossed, arms at the hip, that you're not really paying attention. So if you want to be an influencer, you have to really pay attention and be locked in.
Yeah, no, that's so important and that goes with, with the family for sure, because, you want the person to leave you with a smile on their face, feeling better than they were when they came to you, because that's so important, because we could help everyone if we just gave them a little bit of encouragement, or just to let them know that we're here for them. And that's so important, isn't it? Because everybody else would just have it, just have them have a little bit easier of a day by just letting them know that we're all here for them.
And what's really powerful, Josh has taught me this more than anybody. It's not what you say to people; it's how you make them feel. If you can make a person feel like you've listened to them, like you have empathy for them, for their situation, for what they're going on, that's more powerful than anything you can say.
Yeah, and that's so important in a marriage, because we have each other's backs. You know what I mean? So all of you out there married, how are we supporting each other in our marriage, and how are we supporting our children by our listening skills? Because I'm their mother, I'm your wife, and I want you to come to me if there's an issue. I want the kids to come to me, and I want them to know that when they mess up, I'm not going to overreact. I'm going to listen to what happened, and we're going to figure it out together.
Number 4 is to be gracious, communicate with tact and empathy. That's really important when you're gracious, like my wife just said. You start screaming and you're not being empathetic. There's a lot of instances where we deal with our children, like she said, we don't have the patience and being empathy. Why did you do that? Or what caused you to do that? What were you thinking when that happened? So being empathetic and seeing it from their perspective. They're young, they make dumb mistakes, and it's all about the learning process.
Yeah, it's good to remember when you were younger, because when my kids do stupid things, I'm like, oh my gosh, I did worse. So I'm like, so half the time I'm like, it's all right, but it is important. And even in our, with our siblings and with our parents and our coworkers and all that, we don't know what life they've lived half the time. We don't know where they came from. So for us to be, non-judgmental is so important for us too, because sometimes we just get worked up,
The last one, number 5, is let go of having to be right. It's all about trust, and that's a hard one for everybody. If you can let go of that in business and try to create a scenario where you win, or maybe the other side wins, where you're creating value, you don't have to be right. You just have to do a good job and give the other side what they need, and then you'll get what you need. So those 5 are important. Let me repeat them real quick. It's breathe, listen, smile, be gracious, and have trust.
Yeah, no, trust is super, super important, because like I said a couple of times probably already, is I want my family to come to me. I want them to come to me and tell me anything, good or bad. I want to know about it, and I want to be there to help them. So am I showing them that I am trustworthy, right? Because if I'm going to overreact, or if I'm going to judge them right away, they're not going to trust me, and they're going to go to someone else. And as a parent, that's something to think about. Even if our kids are small, do we want our children to come to us, or are they going to go to a friend, or, someone other than maybe don't share our values? That's so important. As the kids get older, we realize how important that is.
So Julia, to wrap this up, I just want to say this is a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
And negotiation, every skill that we talk about, a sales skill, a parenting skill, negotiation skill, listening, mirroring. We didn't talk about labeling one, but when you use labeling and negotiation, these are all skills that you can learn. You have to be aware of them first.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be conscious and understand, oh, I can be a better listener. You have to want to do that. And then you just start learning. You start putting this into practice, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to practice it every day. And if you practice it every day, you're going to get better
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah. But we do kind of fall off the path sometimes, because when we're preparing for this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get back onto that. So we do forget. And I just want to point that out, that we do make our decision to listen, but we forget, the time goes by and we forget. And that's okay, because you know what? We'll be better than we were last time. We'll learn things that we didn't know last time. So when we fail, that's actually a good thing, because then we're going to get back on and we're going to do it better. So it's important to remember that it's a constant effort, especially in a family, in a marriage. It's always, we're always trying. We're always, we're going to keep at it. We're going to keep at that effort,
I want you all to know that The Honeybee is out on Audible.
you can
launched it.
listen. You can listen to it.
Yes, I know Jake Stenziano is not a big reader. He likes listening on Audible. It's a great read, and it's an even better listen
It's
too.
a really good read. I have the live version.
So I want you all to go out there. We're going to leave a link in the show notes for you to pick it up. I just want to thank you all for being part of the Jake and Gino family and just sharing part of your day with us. And go out there, and once you've gotten off this podcast, grab the next person and say, so how's your day going? What was great about your day?
Mm-hmm.
I love asking my kids this. What did you learn today?
Mm-hmm.
What was the favorite part of your day today?
Mm-hmm.
And let them talk and let them light up and really listen and see the difference.
Yeah. I do. I want to just, say again, I want everyone to just pay attention. Are you a listener? Are you a good listener? And how can you get better? And how can we be better reactors too? Because that's the other half of it.
Thanks, Jewel.
Thanks, everyone.
I will see you at the restaurant in like 20 minutes.
Can't wait.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.